Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host. And I had no inside information about it being Minecraft. That was simply a guess because it was what was popular.
Yeah.
But the Chargers obviously did it again with the Minecraft video. The kings of social media crushed it yet again. And we are here to talk about their social media crushing, as well as the Chargers 2025 schedule. So we knew who the opponents were going to be. Obviously, now we can kind of put two and two together. We know when the bye week is, etc. And then we'll kind of discuss mostly our record predictions. I think is going to be the bulk of this show. And joining me to do that tonight, as always, is my guy Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
2 words: chicken jockey. There, I did what the kids are doing.
Have you seen the movie?
No, no.
Okay.
I have no reference.
So I've never played the video game. I've not seen the movie.
Sure.
I love Jack Black. I think he's like one of my favorite actors. And Jason Momoa is fun too. But I don't know if I will see the movie. I guess maybe now I should probably go see the movie to understand some of these references. So
yeah,
obviously the trolling is the trolling. We get the trolling, but if there's any like specific video game references in there, like feel free, drop them in the chat. If you are a big Minecraft person, like Danny Smith, Danny Smith, excuse me, says he's obsessed with Minecraft. So if you have all of the Minecraft references, like feel free and drop them in the chat because I don't understand them. So we'll talk about some of the troll jobs, but I've never played the video game before. I've not seen the movie. So if you love Minecraft, let us know what some of these Easter eggs mean.
Yes, and what I want is a follow-up video where they have Jim Harbaugh have to guess what any of these things mean. That's the follow-up I need. Like, does Jim Harbaugh know any of these, and can he figure out what this?
Ooh, there's a barcode for the second Raiders matchup. I missed that.
Yes, so it's up there for a brief second. You click it. I think I have it on my phone still. Let me see if I can pull it off my phone. Okay, so you scan the barcode, the QR code, and you have to keep clicking links on the site. And it says like, click here, click again, and then it says like scanners, and then they're like, wait, why are you still clicking? Don't you have a job to go to? And then you end up on this.
Nice.
So you end up with the
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Last year,
this one's good. You're still here. Don't you have a job? Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Last year it was like there was like a prison reference, wasn't there?
I don't remember. There was one the first year with the anime schedule. It was a job application or like a link to get jobs. They were in a prison last year for Sims. But yeah, some very good stuff. That one was fantastic. The Colts one was absolutely brutal.
So good.
I knew as soon as they started, I'm like, I bet you they're going to do that for him. For Anthony Richardson to like leave the race early and go to like the Pat McAfee suite, and it says and then out of gas or whatever. Yep. Incredible.
Yep. Matthew says, was it a bail bonds ad for the Raiders one?
Ooh, it might be. Yeah, that sounds about right. I get them all mixed up. Very, very, very good schedule release though.
Yeah.
Yes. The pigs were amazing.
Yes. The owners of 53 donkeys in the first Broncos game was great.
Ooh, what's that one?
In the first Broncos game, at the top it says, "You are now the owner of 53 donkeys."
That's funny.
That one is good. The Chiefs, obviously, they trolled them losing the Super Bowl. So like the Chiefs, obviously, they're in like their level. Yes. And then the second one, they like switch the scene around, and then the eagle comes in and like kills them, and you hear some audio from the Super Bowl broadcast. That's always good. I'm sure people will not be kind to that, but that was a good one as well.
Yeah, the Steelers one was good. Like track ends at 9'8", we're like to 9 and 8. Like just classic Steelers these years, just above, always a winning record or not a losing record. Let's see, Will Levis. Oh no, okay. My favorite one, other than the Colts one, was in the very back of the Vikings lair. There's a very small photo of Herbert winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, getting back to the Steelers one, I loved how they like had the two like entry points in. It was like contend or mid or whatever like that. And then quarterbacks who I assume like one is Russell Wilson and one is Aaron Rodgers probably.
Yeah.
and then they got to the 9-8 thing. The other Vikings one was funny because it was Sam Darnold, and like Kevin O'Connell is a huge Sam Darnold fan, and so you see Sam come in, and then he leaves in a Seahawks uniform. That was funny.
Yeah.
The Giants one was hilarious. So they had a billboard up of like it was like a very aged billboard, and it said Samuel Dones instead of Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley comes in as a monster to dwarf the Giants character.
Yeah,
that one was good. The Giants one was very, very good.
Yeah, that was good stuff. I'm trying to cycle back through it. Someone's asking if we are going to go through the video. We don't want to pick up any accidental. I know that we could email some charges people and ask, but just in case, we're not going to do that, get copyrighted or anything.
So there was a Rappaport and Schultz fight scene at the combine. I did not see that part.
That's at the end. Wait, where is that?
See that part.
Wait, where was? I know there's a credits fight at the combine in the credits.
Oh yeah. That's so good. That is so.
Where is that?
It's at like the 4-minute mark of the video. So the credits is like super long. I just exited because I don't have that long of a attention span. Okay, so it's like 4:15.
I'm watching. I see this cinema with Josh Allen and Sauce Gardner, which I actually don't get. There it is. Oh, the Rappaport and Schultz one. Gotcha. That's so funny. I completely exited out because we had to start the show. That's awesome.
So good. For anybody who's missing it.
I guess you can't really see it. That's amazing. They're in the film room throwing popcorn for chicken.
Special thank you to the Minecraft community, Caffeine HC. That's funny.
Yeah, I'm assuming.
Are these like actual like Minecraft tags?
I think they had people like build it and play through it for this footage. It's not like generated footage. They like built it, which is pretty cool.
What's this one? What's this one after that Rappaport and Schultz one where they're
in a ring?
Aaron Rodgers?
Is it when they're in a ring?
Yeah.
That's the chicken jockey meme. I don't know who the player.
Oh, that's the chicken jockey thing. I think that's Aaron Rodgers. It's like a green 8 jersey.
Yeah, and then they're just partying at the chicken. You saw all the videos of all the kids trashing the theaters at the chicken jockey thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what they're doing with fireworks
thing. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he looks like Aaron Rodgers.
They had the Bears defensive back who like did the Hail Mary thing at the end of the Commanders game. That's a good one.
Oh, that's good. I'm excited to go back through this with a fine-tooth comb there.
They don't play the Bears though, do they?
No. That's awesome.
Okay. Did you see that they had the exchange of Micah Parsons and Tank Lawrence on Twitter for the Cowboys one?
I saw that. I just didn't get what the reference was.
So DeMarcus Lawrence goes to the Seahawks, and the reporters, like the first day he's there, they were talking about, hey, like what drew you to leaving Dallas and coming here? And he said, well, I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there, so I decided to go somewhere else. And in the tweet of that video going viral, Micah Parsons quoted it and said, "This some clown." And then DeMarcus Lawrence hit and him got back into it.
Gotcha. Okay. I totally forgot about that, but now I remember.
And then it says George Pickens has entered the chat.
Yes. Which is great.
That's good. The Cowboys one, very, very good.
Yeah.
I think the Giants one is probably my favorite, actually.
Yeah, that one's pretty good there. All right. Do we want to get into this schedule?
Alex mentioned the Eagles one too, where they have podcast Paul and Jason Kelsey. Yes. That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Kelsey one was good for smashing the cell phone.
The Titans one is like fine.
Yeah, I thought something else was happening, but then it was just the memes.
The Dolphins one's kind of whatever.
Yeah.
the Commanders one where the fans are falling on Jaden Daniels. That's a good one.
Oh yeah,
too.
that's good.
That's a good one.
Outside of all this too, I really liked Ouija tarts for the Kansas City Chiefs because of all the juju and spirits or dark realm stuff or whatever from last year. I love the Ouija tarts from their Pop Tarts this year.
All right. Great job by the Chargers social media team, continuing to push the bill there. Gilbert Manzano had a great article about kind of what goes into all of this for building the schedule release and things like that on Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
The like thumbnail was of the 49ers, but basically the whole thing was of the Chargers and their whole process. So definitely encourage you guys to go check that out. There are some other teams who don't take this very seriously, and like it's a schedule release. It doesn't have to be like this kind of pageantry, but the fact that the Chargers are the team that make it this kind of pageantry, I always really appreciate.
Yeah.
And we know some of the people who work on this and are very thankful for those relationships. So the amount of time and effort that this production team truly puts into the schedule to release of videos, it just should not be praised enough. Like this is a tremendous effort from top to bottom, and we are so grateful for that. And it's just it makes it more fun. Like we're here on May 14th talking about a schedule release video that the Chargers did of Minecraft. So I give a huge shout out to anybody involved. Obviously Megan and Jason and all those good people who we've worked with, who are obviously very involved in that whole process. They do a great job. So I don't know if any of them are watching this or not, but if you are, we appreciate you guys and you continue to crush it. So I just wanted to get that out there real quick.
Yeah, thank you for making the off season as entertaining as you possibly from a media perspective, I can't imagine how much fun these meetings are. Like you get through the grind of the season, you got to do all this and that, but then you just get to go do something fun like this. Like, what can we possibly get away with? I do think that the anime ones went a little further. The Trubisky ones, there's a couple of ones, they've gone far in a couple of places for sure. I do ultimately like those better overall, but these are incredible. Like I can't imagine there's a better one out there. They said last year, like the Titans one or whatever, when they sent people around.
Titans one was funny where they were like out on the street. Yeah. That one was good.
It was a little derivative of an existing content that already had done that before. So I was like, but it's still amazing. The effort that goes into it. If those like 25 people that they listed at the end all genuinely built this for the Chargers, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of effort. I've never played it, but I know it's a serious process.
Yeah, Andrew pointing out, Andrew Cordova is obviously like kind of the one who shepherded this whole like era of Chargers release videos.
Yeah, good shout out, Andrew.
And he did all of the anime production on his own that first year. That's what Gilbert Manzano reported in that first article. And he went to Megan. This is in the article. He went to Megan and was like, "Hey, I have this idea. What do you think about it?" And she was like, "You can do that. You can just make your own anime." And he's like, "Well, I think I can." And
you're
like
him.
Yeah. So that was all original content, which I think makes that particular release video just like the top tier. Like that is going to go down in social media fame as far as I'm concerned. And so the Sims and the Minecraft videos are very, very fun. They're very, very well done. But that first one, because it was all original work by the Chargers team itself, I think just elevates it to a whole different level.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, he was awesome. We had him, I think, one of our third or fourth episodes with the Chargers.
Yeah,
loved highlighting what he was able to do for the Chargers and what for us.
Yeah, and we interviewed him, and he was like, "Wait, you seriously want to interview me?" And we were like, "Hell yeah, we want to interview you! Like this is amazing content. Like you're the only person out here doing this." So he was a great interview. I believe you guys could go find that interview still on the Chargers YouTube channel. So if you're interested in doing that, you can definitely go check it out.
Yep.
All right. Before we dive into the schedule here, I have to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks, who are the official sponsors of the Guilty as Charged podcast. They are the best and easiest way to consume daily fantasy sports, whether that is basketball, hockey, soccer coming up. If you're a huge soccer fan, obviously football is right around the corner. Whatever floats your boat, Prize Picks has you covered, and we cannot thank them enough for being a valued partner of the Guilty as Charged podcast. So we definitely encourage you guys to go check it out. You can cash in on the basketball playoffs with Prize Picks, and we definitely don't want you to miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's points, rebounds, assists, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. You can turn your playoff hot takes into tickets to basketball's championship series. Starting with the play-in round, every lineup you make on Prize Picks will enter you in the Takes to Tickets sweepstakes, which could get you and a +1 a VIP trip to the ship. So The best way you can continue to support our show is to download the Prize Picks app and use the code GUILTY at checkout to get a $50 deposit, instantly matching your first $5 lineup. Again, that is the Prize Pick app, code GUILTY, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. If you are listening to this, we are going to take a quick break. If you are watching this on YouTube, we are going to start our schedule release information right now. All right, so we have a Google Sheet, which we're going to get into, and we're going to give our initial instant record predictions right now, but just kind of going through the Chargers schedule bit by bit here. We can kind of get some thoughts on, and then we can do the whole record prediction. So obviously we've kind of known the Chargers and Chiefs were going to open week 1 for quite some time. I like how they pushed the announcement back just to tweet it out, which is always funny to me. So the first 4 games, if we want to kind of chunk it up this way, sure. Chargers open with 3 divisional games right off the bat. Chiefs in Brazil, at Raiders on Monday Night Football, home against the Broncos, and then at the Giants. So, Tyler, what are your thoughts? We'll dive in here first. What are your thoughts about the Chargers opening with 3 divisional games in the 2025 season?
According to AI, the Chargers have not done that since 1988, as we say frequently on this channel. I wasn't alive then when that thing happened. And so 1988 was the last time this happened, according to AI. If I'm wrong, blame the robots. But that is something. I know a lot changes throughout the season, and the Chargers will close this season with 2 of their 4 games against divisional opponents on the road. So things will change, sure. But you're going to find out very quickly about the AFC West and where these teams kind of are. Not that I don't know the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Raiders schedules. I don't know if they're also kind of doing the same similar thing, or if they'd wait a long time to play another divisional opponent. But you'll find out pretty quickly what the AFC West is going to be all about, and frankly, what the Chargers are going to be about in their own division. I would not pick the Chargers to win the division as things stand right now, but you'll find out pretty quickly if they have any shot at it with the first 3 weeks. I do like, at least, granted, Brazil isn't exactly hosting it, but I do like that, like, at Raiders feels okay, like solid. That'll be fun, but I feel okay about the Raiders this year. And then hosting the Broncos, I feel good about. So that first set of 3 games is going to tell us a lot about the Chargers, but I do like that it's, neutral field, and the only away game of those 3 is the Raiders, which I know has been difficult for the Chargers, except for last year when they absolutely throttled the Raiders. And I think that the Raiders, they'll be a better team this year. They're definitely, like, just on paper, they're a better team. But I don't think Pete Carroll's going to turn that whole group around by week 2. And so I really do think that it's good to catch them in Vegas early. And then, of course, the Broncos at home is very good too.
Yeah, I like the fact that the Chargers are going to catch the Raiders early. There's a double-edged sword there of, like, they're going to do things on film that the Chargers haven't really seen. You're only going to have 1 game of tape. This is a brand new regime, brand new quarterback, brand new system, all that stuff. Chip Kelly hasn't been in the NFL in 7-8 years or whatever it is. So that aspect of things is going to be very interesting. But on the other side of that, the Raiders are not going to know who they are as a team really until, week 10, 11, 12. And so the Raiders are going to be doing a lot of experimenting and things like that. I am nervous about the Raiders defensive line, but I'm not super nervous about much else outside of Brock Bowers and Ashton Jinty. So, the Chargers should have a coaching advantage just because Pete hasn't been there that long. What happens later in the season, I think, is a different story, but I like catching the Raiders early. Home against the Broncos, should be a game that the Chargers can win. At the Giants, I hate that stadium with a passion. It should not exist. But the Giants, again, it's a similar team where, like, they don't really know who they are. Are the Chargers going to be playing Russell Wilson in that game, or is it going to be Jackson Dart? Like, either way, the Chargers should have a major quarterback advantage in that one. And the whole strength of the Giants defense, or the Giants team, is going to be their defensive line. So the Chargers face some tough defensive lines right out the gate, which I'm not crazy about. But this should be a pretty manageable opening stretch for the team this year.
Yeah, definitely. And right after that, there's not a week 5 bye, which I was very surprised by, but no week 5 bye following the Giants game.
Yeah, the bye week, I think, is coming at a great time this year, which we'll get into here in a second. But I'm very surprised it wasn't an early one because in my head I was like, okay, they're playing Brazil, then they have an East Coast trip. Like they're totally gonna have a like 5-6 bye depending on where those are at. But week 12 is a good spot. Next 4 games: Commanders, Dolphins, Colts. So the Chargers have a 3-game home stretch, or excuse me, 4-game home stretch, with the Vikings being on Thursday Night Football. So that's the second stretch of games. Obviously, it's not a complete 16-game thing like we used to do. But thoughts on Commanders, Dolphins, Colts, Vikings as the next stretch after that?
I love that it's a 4-game home stretch. I don't remember the last time they had 4 in a row that maybe wasn't split by a bye as well. Like that's pretty good for the Chargers. And overall, we'll talk about it, the schedule overall. But the Chargers' most difficult opponents are almost all at home this year, and of course in Brazil as well. And their road opponents are pretty bad. Like all the bad teams they're playing on the road, and all the good teams they're playing at home. It's almost very black and white in that regard. So I do like that they get like the Vikings at home, the Commanders at home. Not that those are great teams, but one made the NFC Championship.
People in the chat are saying the game is in Miami, not home against Miami.
Well, we're all fired. Anyway, I take back everything I said. This never happens. Anyway, at Dolphins. There we go. Okay, so anyway, regardless,
it's in Miami. Yeah, confirmed. Sorry.
Fine. Okay, we'll go to visit their new like 400-pound defensive lineman group over there. Anyway, it's a schedule. Commanders, the Chargers don't play the Commanders very often. It's been a minute since they played the Commanders. Were they even the Commanders the last time they played?
No, they were the Washington football team the last time they played each other. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and Ryan Fitzpatrick played a quarter and a half, and then they got Taylor Heineke for 3 quarters. And
hey, there you go.
Was that
the Heineke?
That was the first Staley game, right? That was the first Staley game.
I guess. Yeah, it had to have been the first Staley game.
Staley game. Yeah.
My goodness, and that was something. Felt a lot of hope. Rashawn Slater beat that other Chase Young guy. Anyway. This 4-game stretch, I feel, it's dangerous. Commanders at any point with their offense, even though the Dolphins are kind of a mess, they are still very dangerous. And the Vikings, of course, with at least one player, is very, very dangerous. I just don't know about this group of quarterbacks here,
right?
Particularly with Dolphins, Colts, and Vikings, and honestly, even Commanders, which I know sounds blasphemous, but we just did this with C.J. Stroud, where he was a top 4 quarterback a year ago. Then now he's not a top 4 quarterback. I expect Daniels to be just fine because I think the Commanders are doing a very good job building around him, especially with that offensive line because the Texans don't want linemen. But it'll be
who needs an all-pro left tackle?
Yeah, let's ship him out. We have good offensive linemen, right? No, we don't. Yeah. It's a solid schedule stretch for them.
Yeah, I think my initial thought of the first 8 games is that the Chargers should be able to go 3-1 in each stretch. I think that's kind of where I'm going to end up with this first 8 games. I'm nervous about Jaden Daniels, the runner. I think he is a good thrower, but I am much more nervous about him as a runner because the Chargers, even last year, did not do so hot against running quarterbacks. Like even Mahomes, the second Chiefs game, Mahomes had a good few runs, and CJ Stroud in the playoff game had more rushing yards than he has had in any game in his career. So I am nervous about Jaden Daniels, the scrambler, the rusher in that game. But it is at home. The Chargers should be able to manage the Commanders defense a little bit. The Commanders defense isn't that great. Who knows if Deebo Samuel can actually ever stay healthy and things like that. Cliff Kingsbury, can he do it for his second year in a row? I don't really know. But Daniels, he just has such a backbreaking ability as a runner that scares me a little bit. The Vikings, you have the whole JJ McCarthy aspect of things there. So I don't really know what that's going to look like, but we know what their receiving core looks like, and it's very, very dangerous. So, and you have the whole Brian Flores aspect versus Greg Roman, which I'm not crazy about. So that Vikings game is definitely one that I'm nervous about more so than probably I think there's going to be another game in there that I think I feel pretty confidently I'm going to pick a loss in, but I think the Vikings is probably initial glance like one of the games I'm just going to assume the Chargers are going to lose, honestly, unfortunately.
I disagree there only because I don't know enough about JJ McCarthy, and the only people that know more about JJ McCarthy are the Chargers coaching staff.
That's very true. That is very true.
Like I kind of feel like Minter might put him through hell. Like, this fucking guy in practice, we couldn't touch him. We couldn't touch him in practice in college. Let's go kill this guy.
That's very true.
So I think we'll see. We got a lot to learn, but we will know. Like, by the time we get to that game, I might go, oh yeah, the Chargers are losing this one. But ahead of things, I'll always go with the better quarterback, and they're at home.
Yes, I have seen a Brian Flores defense against a Greg Roman offense several times, and it has never gone well. And it's not like the Ravens had bad quarterback play. So of all of the games that are on the Chargers schedule, Brian Flores versus Greg Roman might be like the coaching matchup that most intimidates me, because I just think that Brian Flores is just so locked in right now. And I can't really see Greg Roman like having a coaching advantage in that one. And it's on a short week, so it makes the things more difficult for him coming back from New York. So I don't know. Like, the JJ McCarthy thing is a great point. It is. I hadn't necessarily considered it that way, but Brian Flores versus Greg Roman is not great. And like Justin Herbert, like, he's the quarterback, but Lamar Jackson's really freaking good. He's won 2 MVPs and could have won a third one. And Brian Flores with a worse defense made them look like a JV offense. So Brian Flores to me is probably like one of the 2 or 3 best defensive minds in the league right now. And that scares me versus Greg Roman.
Yeah. And they're pretty dialed in over there right now. The Vikings are. So I'm trying to think of like coordinator versus coordinator disadvantages. They tend to all circle around Greg Roman. I don't really feel like Minter, like he'll lose matchups, but I don't ever feel like he's at a disadvantage because of who he is, at least who he was last year. So in terms of
because even like, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just kind of like spitballing here, trying to figure out where the other coordinator versus coordinator matchups are the most of a disadvantage. I mean, I guess Texans again could be. Sure. I think Flores and that Vikings defense versus Greg Roman. Yeah, I don't mind that. Other than, of course, the Broncos, who I think are just flat out uber talented anyway on defense.
Yeah, that's true. All right, next 4 games here. Obviously, the aforementioned bye week comes into play here. So after the Vikings, the Chargers go to Tennessee. They host Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football, which I feel like they have. Anytime they play the Steelers at home, I feel like it's Sunday Night Football.
Yes, pretty much.
Obviously, the last time they played the Steelers at home, that was when Cam Hayward punched Justin Herbert on Sunday Night Football.
There you go.
The previous home game against Pittsburgh was the Duck Hodges game, which I'm pretty sure was Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
Was the Jason Verrett versus Antonio Brown game, was that Monday Night Football or Sunday night?
Ooh, that I do not know, but it was definitely prime time.
It was a prime time game, so
and technically the one that they played in not the most recent one, but there was another one in Pittsburgh that was prime time.
Yeah, where Keenan Allen caught that touchdown after it like went in the air from like 3 players.
Yeah, the Justin Jackson breakout.
Justin Jackson game. Yeah.
Monday Night Football says Romeo.
That was a great game. That was so much fun.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun.
Titans Steelers at Jaguars, who are obviously doing the whole, first year coaching thing. And then you have the bye week, and then we can include the next game against the Raiders, which is a home game. There. So thoughts on the next 4-game stretch plus the week 12 bye week.
Titans cheeks. Bye week, great. First Raiders, feel really good about. The Jags aren't a very good team. Like, clearly where they pick, they're not a very good team.
Yeah.
But man, I think one of the only 2 times I saw Jesse Minter on his heels for most of the game was against Liam Cohen and the Bucs. Granted, like, different circumstances, you can say different players, but like
different offensive line for sure.
Offensive line. But I mean, Brian Thomas, holy crap, who's the corner receiver they just took? Travis Hunter. Oh my god. So we'll see with them, but I do feel good about like that one overall. And then the Steelers one is the one that terrifies me. And we did this last year. We said, hey, guys, the Steelers are going to make it ugly. They're going to drag you into a classic Mike Tomlin disgusting fight. That's kind of what the Chargers identity wants to do anyway. And everyone goes, well, the Steelers suck and their quarterback. I'm like, guys, I'm pretty sure, you know, and I picked them to win once we got there. But I think before the season started, I'm like, I think they might lose this one. It's whatever the Steelers state is, they could be a bad team at this point. They could have a different quarterback, could be Rodgers, whatever. This game's going to suck. I'm pretty sure it's going to suck. And it's on prime time. The Steelers are going to take over that stadium, which sucks. I'll probably be there, which sucks. So that is the game of this stretch that terrifies me the most.
In that stretch for sure. Obviously, we have no idea who their quarterback is going to be. It currently is Mason Rudolph. So, but then again, we mentioned the Duck Hodges game earlier, and the Steelers won that game. The thing about the Steelers that I'm so interested in is like TJ Watt did not have a very good second half of the season, and neither did Cam Hayward. But if those two guys are like healthy and they look like their previous selves, that defensive line is just so good, man. And they added obviously Derek Harmon. It's a defense that I think could give the Chargers some trouble because they're good all across the board in terms of their defensive line, their defensive front, their linebackers are good. They have Joey Porter Jr. on the outside. They have Minka Fitzpatrick. So that game, it's always going to be a dogfight. It's the Steelers. But right now, like, I think we kind of just have to pencil in a win because we have no idea who their quarterback is. Because right now it's Mason Rudolph. Will my pick change all that much if they if they trade for like Kirk Cousins? I don't really know. If it's Aaron Rodgers, same kind of thing. But the defense is definitely a tough one. I'm very curious about that Jaguars game because that could potentially feel like a bit of a trap game where you're coming off of a tough matchup against the Steelers, probably very physical. You're going to go travel to the East Coast. It's a 10 a.m. kick, etc. Your next week is the bye game. I know a lot of Chargers fans are going to pencil in a win against the Jags, and I get it. They are not a very good team, but I think of this schedule, I think that's probably like the trap game on the schedule that I would be maybe kind of, keeping an eye on at least, considering potentially predicting a loss there. I don't think I'm going to go there today, but that feels like the biggest quote unquote trap game on the Chargers schedule.
Yeah. I mean, it very well could be. I mean, the 1, 2, 3, Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, De'Ami Brown. Again, the line is definitely not the same as what the Bucs had, but that is a difficult 1, 2, 3. And at some point, we'll see what the Chargers are even doing at corner at that point. But that's a three tough group. It's a tough group to cover.
Yeah. Anthony says the Chargers do not play a single team coming off a bye week.
That's good, new. I think like that was 17 times last year somehow.
Yeah, it felt like every other week.
We're really well rested. Yeah.
There's I forget who does like the rest advantage thing. But there's somebody out there that looks at how the NFL schedules against rest. I'm very curious where the Chargers come in that regard this year.
Yeah.
Okay, last 5 games. This is why I'm very glad the Chargers have a Week 12 bye, because this end of the schedule is an absolute gauntlet. So the Chargers have a Monday Night Football game against the Eagles. I will probably be there because my brother is an Eagles fan, and the Chargers and Eagles never play each other at home, and etc. So I will probably be in attendance that one. Hopefully Alex Insdorf in the chat can be in attendance as well. We'll see about that one. But Monday Night Football against the Eagles, very difficult matchup on paper. At the Chiefs in December, not crazy about that one. At the Cowboys, home against the Texans in the rematch, and then at Denver to close out the season. So one of the things that I always look at for the Chargers is where's the bye, and I'm good on that this year. Week 12 is great. I love that. Second thing is cold weather games. This year, the Chargers have at Kansas City, at Denver to close the season. So the Chargers have been a little lucky in previous years where the games are usually at those places early in the season and then at home late in the season.
Yeah.
This year it's flipped to the other side here. So very, very difficult 5-game stretch to end the season. Even the Cowboys, who like, I have no idea what their coaching situation is good like, but on paper their roster is really, really good. And they just added George Pickens, so I'm nervous about that one in terms of how do they match up with CD and George Pickens. How do they stop Micah Parsons is always going to be something that I'm interested in. But this 5-game stretch to end the season is no joke. It is a very, very difficult one on paper right now.
I am willing to bet, honestly, that Cowboys game on paper is very, very scary. I'm willing to bet that by the time we get to that game, this team is out.
The Cowboys are out?
Yeah, like they're pretty much toast. Or the Chargers will just finish them off and they will no longer have odds at that point. Like, I just feel like at that point, maybe it's just because it's the Cowboys. I don't know. But like it's a very there's a lot of talent on that team. Some very, very elite premium players on that team. I'm going to eat my words because I've said this about, I don't know, Sirianni and Campbell before, but I feel like they kind of bungled that hire. Like they
were at least like good coaching candidates. Like nobody else was interviewing Brian Schottenheimer. They would not have even thought about it at all. Dan Campbell and Sirianni had other interviews.
Yeah. So we'll see what the Cowboys are at that point. But the other games, I mean, that Eagles game, I mean, it's going to be kind of cinematic to see some of that back and forth just because the Eagles are so talented. The Chargers less so, but I believe in Minter, and we'll see what happens with Roman. At Chiefs, nervous for sure. Texans, I don't know. Like if the Texans are just are back to what they were before, and that defense hums along like it was, that's a scary team. But we'll see. At Broncos, that's like I know the Chargers beat the Broncos in Denver last year. I'm going to pick them to lose this year in Denver. Spoiler, just because it still sucks to play there. And I think that Broncos team is pretty good.
Yeah, the Broncos they make me nervous, man. They do. They're a much better team than Charger fans give them credit for, I think. Defense is a little fluky in the NFL. Like there is a lot of variance with how defenses perform over the past few years. But they were, I think, second in EPA per play to finish the season last year. And they didn't do anything to get worse. Like, if anything, they improved. They got Jahdae Barron in the draft, which sucks. Their defensive line is still very good. They obviously added Talanoa Hufanga as well as Dre Greenlaw from the 49ers. Those are two very good players who, when they're healthy at least. So I'm nervous about the Broncos. I think I'm probably going to predict a split. But at Denver, Week 18, that defense, that's a game that I think is going to be a tough one for the Chargers to win. Yeah.
I mean, they added RJ Harvey very early, but they added RJ Harvey.
And Sean Payton loves RJ Harvey. Like, that guy cannot stop talking about him.
Yeah, which, ditto, I guess. But, Pat Bryant, Evan Ingram. So, we'll see with that group.
Yeah. Obviously, the whole Bo Nix aspect of things is interesting to see how he will improve, if he will improve. But the Broncos are very well coached. They have a great defense. They have a very good to potentially great offensive line. If RJ Harvey can hit right away, man, like I don't really see a ton of weaknesses. They don't have a star receivers. Cortland Sutton is very nice. He's very good. But that's like about it. Like they're a very good team.
Oh, they have Michael Bandy on the depth chart. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't gotten more like Saints players and like that whole tree. But we'll see how it is. Sean Payton is the worst, says Eamon Hughes. I don't know, man. Like he's still a really good coach. Like I don't know. Like
opinion, maybe.
Yeah.
For character wise, I suppose.
Sure. NSN says he also hates Sean Payton. Why Sean Payton hate in the chat? Interesting.
Did Sean Payton like Herbert? I feel like he always praised Herbert.
He loved Justin Herbert. He wanted to coach the Chargers job, man.
Yeah, fair enough.
He was on Fox News, be like, I love this Chargers team.
All right, fine. He's right once.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how he loves Justin Herbert and then he drafts the next Oregon quarterback after him. So,
yep.
I guess Tyler Shuck was after Herbert technically, but you get what I'm saying.
Yep.
All right. Before we get to our wins and losses predictions here, our audio audience is going to take a quick break, and our visual audience is going to keep cruising right along. All right, Tyler, let's start with the games that you feel like most strongly about. Should we do that, or you want to go like 1 through 18?
Ooh, yeah. Let's do some ones we feel strongly about. We won't be able to do like the numbers in order, or I guess I can put I don't know. I'll put a W next to a win.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the Titans. That's a W, which I know has been difficult in previous years, but I don't know about that group.
I agree there. The whole like the Titans should be a lot better from an offensive standpoint. With Cam Ward, but their receiving room is Calvin Ridley and not much else, and their tight end room is, I liked Gunnar Helm, but he's their best pass catching tight end. That's a little tricky. That should be a matchup that Jesse Minter comfortably has a very strong advantage in. So I agree there.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know what it's like a next. There's like a next. That one's like the easiest one I could think of. After that, I think there's another tier of like Giants, Colts.
I agree about the Colts.
So I'll think I'll go Colts, especially at home versus the Colts.
Because you're either getting, maybe Anthony Richardson takes a step, but I don't know, man. Like, he's one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks in NFL history so far. Or you're playing Daniel Jones at that point in time.
The other most inaccurate quarterback in the
NFL. Yeah. So I think Giants and Colts, I'm pretty comfortable putting in that same kind of tier.
Yeah. So in that same vein, let me think. The next ones that kind of come to my mind are Dolphins and Raiders. I would pick the Dolphins. I would pick the Chargers to beat the Dolphins. They feel like they're a couple of games away from things starting.
This is probably a year where McDaniel gets fired and they just reset.
Yeah.
Like, they can get out of the Tua contract. They've been rumored to trade Jalen Ramsey for like a year now. So this feels like a year where the Dolphins are 6-11 and everybody's fired.
Yeah. So dangerous. Like, I'm not saying this.
In which case, Frank Smith, come home, please. I'm begging.
100%. Yeah. If Frank Smith joins the Chargers next year, I will bet $1 billion on the Chargers at least getting to the AFC Championship.
So I'm comfortable with them in here.
Okay.
The Raiders game at home, I'm definitely putting a win in, because that's after the bye week. The Chargers should be very well rested.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to do the same for week 2.
Yeah, I will have them splitting the other teams at least, but beating the Raiders.
I'm a little hesitant about like the turnaround from Brazil to week 2, but the Chargers do get this on a Monday night instead of a Sunday. You get that extra day, so
and they play Friday, right?
I think that's enough of an advantage from a travel standpoint where the Chargers should be okay. So I'm going to go sweeping the Raiders as well.
Yeah, I think I agree there. All right. Do we want to kind of reverse this for a second and get to the ones we feel like are strongly a loss?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. Eagles?
I agree.
Okay. Eagles.
I will be there, so I want them to win. That would be great.
If I'm there, they're definitely losing. So
I don't know, man. That's going to be really interesting, because there's probably going to be a few Hagelin family members at that game.
Yeah.
And we're going to be rooting for opposite teams, but I don't know, man. I just think the Eagles offense is it's going to be a big problem for the Chargers. I think the Chargers defensive line it's in fine shape, but I think against an elite offensive line, they will struggle. And the Eagles, I think, are just going to, unfortunately, probably run right through them.
Yeah. That's, as we saw, like, as we've seen all of last year, it's just going to suck. Even if you don't have to take one, I would still be worried.
Incredible Aristotle says that you broke the curse last season at the Bengals game. That's a great point.
I did. Is it breaking the curse if you do it once every 10 years, or is it just like because they lost
they lost the playoff game?
They lost to a bad Bengals team, but they beat a bad Bengals team. Then they lost to the Ravens. Then what else? What other loss did I see? Some other one. And then I saw the loss in Houston, which was an absolute highlight of my life. Was flying to Houston on a red eye and watching them lose So
Dylan says that you just aren't allowed to go to playoff games.
fine.
If it's a home game, you're going, like you're a season ticket holder. So
I'm gonna get stopped at the door. Thunder Alley is gonna throw me in the back of a car if I show up to a playoff game at home.
Yeah. Okay, so I think
At Chiefs.
I'm conflicted because I do think the Chargers can split against the Chiefs. I'm trying to figure out which of the games they're more likely to win. Because
I think, yeah, go for it.
The Chiefs in September are like a 90% win percentage team. Like they are so good in September. And it's so funny because they have like this reputation of like, oh, they don't really try all that much in September. Their win-loss record in September is amazing. So I'm inclined to think that of the two games, the Chargers would be more likely to win the first game because it's, traveling, etc. Both teams are more on an equal footing there. The Chiefs do have some new faces on defense. I don't love their offensive line, etc. But at Arrowhead in December, I think is probably the more likely loss.
I mean, that's what I'll go with at this point. It's not like they've beaten the Chiefs in Arrowhead enough recently where I'm like, oh yeah, they have their number.
I forgot the Chiefs signed Jerry Tillery. I did not.
Never mind. They're sweeping the Chiefs. They are sweeping the Chiefs. You heard it here first. I just clip this out in 7 months. Like the Chargers are sweeping the Chiefs. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, starting Jerry Tillery. Godspeed, I guess.
Is he actually starting though?
If Jerry Tillery beats the brass out of Bradley Bozeman in week 1, I'm going to have to walk off of the stream and just let you do this by yourself.
That is so funny. So their defensive tackle room, I guess probably like Mike Pennell is more of their starter.
Okay.
He's probably more of like their run stuffing defensive tackle. So their defensive tackle room is Chris Jones, Mike Pennell, Jerry Tillery, and Omar Norman Lott. That's a small defensive tackle room outside of Chris Jones,
who is underrated now. Apparently, we are big Chris Jones stands on the show now.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm gonna settle in with losing the first game or the second game and winning the first game. Oh man, am I gonna have them start 4-0?
That's the part that's tricky. That's the thing. It's not that I think they can't beat the Chiefs. It's them starting 4-0. And are they gonna start 4-0? Let's come back to this one.
We'll come back to the chart. We'll come back to the Chiefs. Okay.
At Denver, I'm going to pick them to lose. If I had to look at it.
See, but that could be an easy one for me to flip where then I don't have to do 4-0 if I have them losing the first Broncos game and winning the second one. I don't know. You guys in the chat, how do we feel about the Chargers potentially starting the season 4-0? Likely, not very likely, kind of likely. What are your thoughts on 4-0?
All right, I'll tell you what, I'm going to make this decision for myself, and then we'll work around, see what it comes up from that. So I have them losing.
I thought you put a T in there for a second.
Yeah,
we're predicting a tie.
Tie, yes. Forfeit. No, okay. No, wait. Lost there. I'm going to go then Chargers win.
So you're going to go 0-2 against the Chiefs?
Who cares? None of this matters. W. None of this matters. None of this matters. Here we go. Okay, here we go, guys.
That is so funny. That is good.
Okay. None of it matters.
They won in Denver last year, so I'm gonna flip them this year. I'm gonna say they lose week 3 and then they win week 18.
Okay. So they close out with the W there. All right. I don't mind that. It was very scary the last time they played the Broncos at home. They just happened to play a second half and did very well.
Yeah. So you have a loss versus the Commanders.
Yeah. So loss versus Commanders. I can't have them start 9-0. So they gotta lose somewhere. If they do, great. But Like
Yeah.
they're beating. I think they'll beat the Dolphins, the Colts, the Vikings. Is wait, I have a W there for the Vikings.
I didn't put that, so
I'm gonna put a question mark on that one and come back to
okay.
it. Okay, Steelers. 1, 2, 3, 5, 5. I don't know who their quarterback is. W. Well, I know who it is. It's Howard. Cowboys. They suck.
Will Howard. I forgot that he was drafted by them. He should be their starter right now.
Yeah,
I agree. Though. I think that's a win.
Jaguars. We don't have
like
on there. You don't have on there yet.
Like
Texans,
a 16-13 win is what I would go with for the Steelers right now.
Texans is so difficult. They're not like a consistently great team. Who is their no offensive coordinator?
We had this conversation once, and I forgot
know
already. Texans. OC.
It is Nick Caley.
Nick Caley from the Rams. So you have no idea who that's going to be. Obviously, in Week 17, they will know.
Yes,
but he's kind of like Patriots Rams ish. So he does have some kind of diversity. He was the Patriots tight ends coach for a while.
Yeah,
but their offensive line is horrible. Like legitimately, probably the worst offensive line in the league. And like super cool, they drafted the 2 Iowa State receivers, but like who's blocking people on this team?
Yeah, no kidding.
I think I'm gonna say win, but that is probably a very low scoring game, I assume right now. And I believe this team can, again, like you mentioned, I think the Cowboys are going to be cooked at that point.
That Texans one. No, whatever. Are they going to beat the Texans? Sure, why not? I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna put that as a W, but I need to look back at some of these other games.
Yeah,
find where does the stupid game the Chargers lose that makes the fandom like? Where's the Cardinals game?
I think that's the Jaguars game.
Ooh,
I think that's the Jaguars game. Like, look, pointing it in that picture because you have a very physical game against the Steelers. You have a bye week after. Like that, just to me feels like very stereotypical trap game. And the Jaguars are bad overall, but you have enough pieces there with Trevor Lawrence and the receivers where I think that's the trap game. I have not yet decided if I'm going to say winner or loss yet, but that to me is like the stupid trap game that I could see the Chargers losing.
Yeah, I'm flipping the Vikings game to be there. Not that it's how did they possibly lose to the Vikings? I could definitely tell you how, but I'm going to count that as one of their losses as well. So I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses on the season, with the Vikings game being a flip game, but just weird-ish happens on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Look at the Jaguars defense.
They have good edge rushers. That's about it.
Right. That's kind of my thing. I mean, Campbell's still there. Or is he still? Yeah, he's still there. Technically, Travis Hunter is on defense.
People saying the Dolphins could be a trap game too, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, Jaguars could definitely be the dumb game that they lose. Not that there's not talent there, but yeah, okay. In any particular order, I feel good about 12-5. With that Chiefs game being very dicey for me. You and I have different orders of things, but I think splitting Broncos, we both feel pretty good, I guess, about. I should take the Raiders more seriously, but also like, sorry, Dad.
Yeah. Okay, so after kind of just thinking about this, sorry for hitting my microphone. I'm going to say they win against the Commanders, and I am going to say that they lose against the Jaguars. 10 a.m. kick.
Yeah.
Post Steelers, pre-bye. I think that's a game where I could see the Chargers starting out slowly.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence and that group can kind of get hot quickly. You know, the thing that I'm most curious about, like the Chargers defense, is that I feel like they can do a good job against the non-elite wide receiver ones, but you know, like we've seen them struggle against like Nico Collins and obviously Jamar Chase and things like that. I think they can do a good job against like a Brian Thomas type, you know, but Like that feels like a game where Travis Hunter could kind of go a little crazy on offense.
Right.
That feels like a game again, slow start, things like that. So I think I'm gonna go with a loss there just to keep the Chargers a little grounded in terms of expecting a game that more people are expecting as a win. And the Dolphins could qualify here too. But the Dolphins, their receivers are great. They have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Sort of.
The rest, sort of. We don't really know. The rest of their roster is like truly awful. Like their starting safeties are like Ashton Davis and Ife Melifonwu, who was a bench player for the Lions. Like their corners are horrible. Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are both coming off of big injuries.
Yeah.
I like the defensive tackles they drafted, but they're still rookies. Kenneth Grant and did they take CJ West or was that the 49ers? They took Jordan Phillips. Yeah. So I like those two players, but rookies. So the Dolphins could qualify as the trap game, but I think part of the trap game has to imply like a bit more friskiness than being like a bad team. And I think the Dolphins are a bad team.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think trap game applies when there's something you're looking ahead to. I don't really think versus Colts is like that.
So do we both have 12-5?
Yeah.
Am I looking at this right?
We're more optimistic. Look at us. I think I had them at 11-6 last year.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Is there any game that I want to change?
Highlight the 3 you feel the worst about, like the least confident in.
The 3 I feel the least confident in, I would say the Commanders.
Ooh, yeah.
I say the Texans.
Yep, I was going to go right to that one.
And probably week 1.
Yeah, I'm there, and I'll say the Vikings is the game I'm not sure about. Yeah, I agree with you. Week 1, because we literally we don't officially know these teams. That one I completely get. Texans were on the same page there. Yeah, Commanders, you and I are on different spaces there, so I understand why you'd say like you're iffy, because I said lost. And then Vikings, I just like JJ McCarthy could just be terrible, but they've got to lose somewhere. I've seen Jefferson. I've watched in person Justin Jefferson do it. So where I think he only had that was the ad Vikings game. Never mind.
Yeah. So again, this is 12-5 with some uncertainty, and this is, I don't know if we'll call this an official prediction, but I feel at this current time, I feel good about 12-5. Like I think it's a reasonable thing to expect the Chargers should improve, and I'm kind of iffy on the Chargers schedule being like extremely difficult. Like I think that's the way that it is being painted, but like you mentioned, a lot of their most important games are at home, and like national media members will poke fun at that, but it matters, having the travel advantage, having the ability to, do your usual routine. I think that helps, kind of add a win or two. And I think their improvements at receiver, pass catcher, add a win or two. So, running back, we talked about as being the most improved room on the team. I think 12-5 is a reasonable expectation, with the understanding that, they're a Mekhi Becton injury away from potentially being like 10-7 again.
Yeah, definitely. Regarding the home games, if some of these games were flipped, let's say like the away schedule was the home schedule, I think I'd pick 10 wins, 11 wins, but it generally makes a difference. But they have all these great teams, the playoff teams at home, and have a much easier schedule on the road. The interior offensive line, that's nasty in terms of the games where that would. So the games where that would be the worst for them, that interior. Chris Jones.
If Mekhi Becton were to miss week 1, that's a loss.
Yeah,
already.
That would change the Steelers game, I think, potentially for me as well.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm on the fence about that one.
I think that would change a Raiders game, because
Yeah.
Christian Wilkins without Mekhi Becton is not fun. That is not fun.
Yeah.
Even the Titans, that becomes at least more difficult without Mekhi Becton because they still have Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah.
The Colts have DeForest Buckner, so that could change.
Yeah. I'm starting to get more
Commanders
nervous about the
have
Jaguars game.
Sorry?
Oh, I was just starting to get more nervous about the Jaguars game the more I look at it, because they just, like you said, beat up on Sunday Night Football. And there's no bye before then, so you're limping to your last game before the bye. We've seen so many times the Chargers might have a player who could go, but because the bye's coming up, they rest that player because they need him for the playoff stretch.
Right.
So,
yeah. Outside of like the obvious players, right? Like, outside of your top 5 players on the Chargers, Mekhi Becton legitimately has an argument to be like the most important player on the team, because if he gets injured, then we're right back to the whole Zion, Bozeman, Pipkins experiment from last year that did not go so very good. So Mekhi Becton is currently healthy, and the Chargers are tremendously high on what Mekhi Becton can bring. The picture of him and Joe Alt next to each other from practice the other day cracked me up. They are huge on the right side. But if he misses time, like if, we already have a, loss penciled into the Eagles, right? But if he misses the Eagles game, man, like that defensive line is just going to, like, it's going to be the Chargers might not score 10 points against the Eagles if Mekhi Becton is not playing. So Tim May thinks it's not that bad. Did we watch the same Texans game? I don't think we did. If you think it's not that bad. So if Mekhi Becton can stay relatively healthy, plays 14, 15 games, I think the Chargers will be okay if they have to start Trey Pipkins for a couple of games. But if Mekhi misses 10 games, that's a huge problem for this team. And suddenly these games flip. And like you mentioned, like Steelers, I think is a great thing there, because then you're talking about Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, Derek Harmon versus like, that's a pretty big mismatch, man.
That'll be the game where the chat needs to ask me, hey, you picked a win, in May 14th earlier this year. How do you feel now? Because I don't know. That's on pure interior versus interior alone. I might pick the Steelers. I might flip it right now. I mean, I don't know who their quarterback is, so I won't. But that sucks.
Yeah. That could be another one that I think we could highlight as an iffy one, but in principle, like, until we know who their quarterback is, I can't put in a loss there. Like, all due respect to Will Howard, but Christian asking if Becton gets hurt, would you rather have Pipkins or Jamari? I personally would rather have Jamari, but the Chargers will put Trey Pipkins in there before they put Jamari in there.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, they made that very clear last year.
Yeah. And that's not a game. Well, I guess it's just saying in general here. Never mind. But yes, I would go Jamari.
I think unless the starting center gets injured, Pipkins will be the next lineman up. And the Chargers have, I think, made themselves known where they don't really necessarily care about like position changes. They have an order, and like Trey Pipkins is number 6 in line. And so if anybody gets injured that's not a center, Trey Pipkins will go in. And even then, I think if Bozeman starts and he gets injured, I think they would put Zion at center, and then Trey would be your left guard. If either tackle gets injured, Trey's starting. If Mekhi gets injured, Trey is starting. So he's next in line, and then we'll see about the next spot after that. Last year was Jamari. This year it might be Andre James, depending on kind of where that goes after that. So Trey Pipkins will be the swing offensive lineman who I would expect to start if anybody goes down at any point.
Yeah. Yay.
Trey as a backup is fine. If he only has to start a few games, I'm cool with it. If he has to start the bulk of the season again, then I think we're in a tougher spot, obviously. What I would be curious about, obviously, I hope this does not happen, but if one of the tackles gets injured, I would be curious if they put Becton at one of those tackle spots and then Trey at guard instead of Trey immediately at tackle.
This was an old discussion, so I'll bring it up. But remember what we heard about Filer's response to having to go play inside? No, to play outside after having a guard salary. Basically, like, you got to you better
You gotta
pay me
pay me
more if
more?
you're asking me
Yeah,
to
yeah,
go
yeah.
play on the outside.
Yeah.
So I'm more inclined to think that Mackay stays and they may trade the outside guy.
Yeah. I would think so. Because they paid Mackay a guard contract. They did not pay him a
Yes.
tackle contract. So
Yeah.
We don't like talking about injuries, but this is a very real thing. So
Yeah. And specifically like where. Of course, like, yeah, we can talk about Herbert getting hurt or anybody getting hurt, but specifically where they're the weakest, which
yeah.
apparently it's not good to talk about the weaknesses of the team sometimes. I don't know. Like I saw Locked On getting a lot of ish for talking about the interior being a weakness. Like we all watched last year, didn't we? Like they should, if they want to talk about that, go for it. Until it's fixed, please talk about it.
Yeah. But according to Jim Harbaugh, Zion Johnson is their best run blocker, their smartest offensive lineman, their toughest offensive lineman. So
to be fair, I almost agree with those three things. He just didn't mention pass protection or stunts.
Yeah. he
might
knows
be there.
he knows where the weaknesses are.
Yeah. I mean, I'm smart too. I might be a second smartest offensive lineman for that team. Not very good at pass protection.
In terms of IQ, I definitely think Zion's their smartest one. I mean, Rashawn is very smart. Joe Alt is very smart, but Zion is like a computer genius. So
yes, which is again, I still don't know why it has not worked yet.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll get to some super chats before we get out of here tonight. Dark Samus starting us off. He thinks the Chargers should extend Zion Johnson. So that's funny timing there. He says, unless it's Quentin Nelson, there's no OG with better physical gifts. Don't give up on him. Strong power OGs like Becton shut Chris Jones.
Would be very curious to see how Chris Jones is done against bigger. Wait, how did he do against Becton in the playoffs? It wasn't specifically just Becton, obviously, but
let's see.
I don't remember actually. Granted,
Chris Jones,
and your entire interior is good.
Chris Jones only had 3 pressures in the Super Bowl.
There you go. Although I'm sure, playing Jurgens and who's their left guard?
In that game, it would have been Tyler Steen, because I think their regular left guard was Landon Dickerson healthy in that game.
I don't remember.
Let's see what kind of gaps he lined up in. So Chris Jones, he played more against the tackles in that one, for what it's worth. So he had 27 snaps as a defensive tackle, 17 as an edge rusher in that game.
Oh my God!
I don't know.
What do you want me to do, Coach? All right, go after Lane Johnson. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Extend Zion, like we can't. Like I still believe he could potentially turn it around. That belief is very, very dwindled at this point in time. But you can't justify extending Zion Johnson at this point in time. Like you just can't. There's just no reason for he is on a prove it year. Yes. And if he earns it, great. Then we could talk about an extension. But right now, I think it's more likely than not that he is off the team in 2026.
Yeah, if he is their starting left guard in camp, through training camp, through the preseason, through the season, and they've basically done nothing to challenge him at all, I could definitely see him returning to the team in 2026 because they clearly value what he has. And I get them valuing what he does in the run game is, I got to understand that. Mekhi Becton is a better blocker, I think, than a pass protector last year. So I get that. But extension, no.
Yeah, Zion is a much better run blocker than he is a pass protector, for sure. I think he is a good run blocking guard. Yes. Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt were much better than him at run blocking last year.
Yes.
So, yeah. Josh Alberson says, how many of the leaks that you guys heard of before the releases actually were accurate? I don't believe the ones like the Giants schedule release. So I personally didn't hear any of the schedule release leaks. I wasn't trying though.
Yeah.
Alex Katzen was all over 2 of the games, including the Vikings game, as well as which was the other one? I forget right now.
I remember the Vikings one. I didn't see another one.
Let's go back here.
And then I was just teaching all day, so I don't.
Yeah.
I don't really.
Oh, he was the first person to tweet out the Eagles one. So he was dead on the Vikings and he was dead on the Eagles, and he got Monday Night Football for the Eagles game as well.
It's pretty good. Someone commented, which is understandable. Like, wow, you're actually plugged in like that. Yes, Alex is very plugged in like that.
Yeah, and he was doing that while on vacation. So
from Kauai, which I'll be there in a couple of months.
Nice. Kauai is fantastic. You'll have a great time. So shout out to Alex Katzen. Appreciate him jumping on the show all the time and doing all the work that he does.
Yeah.
Ray with a big super chat. We greatly appreciate that. Says, thank you guys. Really appreciate your work. Keep it up and let's go Chargers.
Thank you, Ray. I don't recall seeing Ray in here very often before. I could be wrong, but I feel like as a Star Wars person, that name would definitely like pop up in my brain. So yeah, thank you very much, Ray. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, let's go Chargers. That'll help get Steven to an Eagles game, or the Chargers Eagles game.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Our last one for tonight, Fabio says, what do you make of the reports that the Chargers opted to not protect the Chiefs game, allowing it to come to Brazil? So in case anybody missed it, there was a report from Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk that essentially a team who's going to an international game and they're going as the host can opt to protect two games that the league cannot make them play in that international game. Essentially, they can say, we want these two games at our home site. And we don't know which two games the Chargers chose, but obviously they did not choose to protect the Chiefs game. Do you have any thoughts on that, Tyler?
I feel like my thoughts on this are, what are the other two games? And I think those would drive my thoughts overall. From a football on-field perspective, fine. If they felt there was some other advantage or whatever, something made more sense to them, fine. As we've discussed before, from a season ticket holder perspective, I hate this. Not that I go to every Chargers home game against the Chiefs and they don't win when they play the Chiefs at home, but for a lot of fans who pay money for a game like this, to have one of the two premium games on your schedule off your schedule, unless you can go to Brazil, that sucks. Because we get notifications in November that we are going to be charged our first, per month, whatever fee for season tickets. So by the time we get to, this schedule, we find out like we can't even go to the Chiefs home game. We've already paid our dues for the most part. So I think that sucks. I think that sucks by the NFL. But of course, they're not going to do anything to make it up to us.
No, I mean, the whole like flexing games thing from last year that Daniel Popper did a great story on during the season, where they flexed the Broncos game to a different day, and it drastically changes things. So
yeah,
obviously most people are able to plan for this one, like we've known for months in advance, right? But the league and the teams themselves, I don't think, do a good enough job of taking into account what this does for season ticket holders, for fans in general. So I think, as somebody who doesn't live in LA and somebody who's not a season ticket holder, like going to a Chiefs game for me was always something that I wanted to do because it's a huge rivalry. Obviously, the Chiefs have the best player of our generation. Like, I wanted to go see the Chargers play Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce at least once. Like, it was something that I always wanted to do, but the other games have always been on primetime. I can't usually go to primetime games because I have to work the next day, transportation, all that stuff. So somebody like me who, like, if you missed last year's Chiefs game, you're probably a little annoyed that you don't get to go to another Chiefs home game. So I think the fan aspect of this is frustrating. I think from an on-field perspective, like you mentioned, the Chargers haven't beaten the Chiefs at home in quite some time, but I want every advantage possible when I'm playing the Chiefs, and playing them at home in week one is a much bigger advantage than playing them in Brazil, where you're also dealing with travel issues, and so are they, right? But like, you never know how, these international games are going to go. You never know if player X gets food poisoning because they're out on the street in Brazil on Thursday night and they just can't play. So there's just more risk involved with having this game be an international game. That's kind of where I end up, is like, to me, this is your most important home game, and it should have been your top priority to protect, to keep at home. And their opinion might have been, let's keep a home game against these teams that we don't really know a ton of. Like let's keep a home game against the Steelers because we don't know what their situation is going to be.
Yeah.
But in my eyes, the games that they should have protected should have been like their two most important games. The first of which is the Chiefs game.
Yeah, no, I agree there. So bummed as a fan. Obviously, in our chat, people are bummed. A lot of season ticket holders, like like Mackenzie, a lot of people on social media are like, yeah, this per the rules, this should not be allowed. We've called the agents, like this should be taken care of, but they've said like, oh well, it just evens out this way because of blah 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 blah. Like it doesn't. Like taking away. Look, even if I wanted to sell these tickets, right? Yeah, that's all I was doing. I can't even do that. I don't think. Like I don't even think I have access to these tickets at all, which would be crazy. Yeah. If I want to go see the Chiefs as a season ticket holder, I could not go see them without paying a separate ticket, I believe.
Yeah. And Thomas Martinez points out a great thing. So last year for the Brazil game, I forget which team was which, but one of the teams had to stay in a hotel that was like 2 hours away from the practice stadium because Sao Paulo is a massive city, but apparently doesn't have two hotels near this stadium that can adequately house an NFL team. So I don't know, man. The Chargers are the home team. They better get the closer hotel, but it's the Chiefs now. The Chiefs are probably going to get that advantage. So it's just, to me, I would want to have that game at home as much as I possibly could. Mm-hmm. And that's as like a football advantage and from a fan perspective. I just think it's, that's your main draw of the season. I would want that game at home. And from like a business perspective, that's probably the game that you are most likely to like truly get a sellout. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I just would have liked to see that game protected, but the NFL would have made the Brazil game difficult regardless, right? Like it's an international game. Yeah. If you didn't know this, I'm not a huge fan of international games. I don't think they should be a thing. Especially a Friday night game in Brazil, but that's just my opinion for another time.
Yeah. So as soon as that game ends, the second it ends, as long as no one gets hurt, I will be praising the fact that the Chargers have plenty of time between then and a Monday night game against the Raiders. But that week one game, yeah, it's not my favorite.
Yeah. We got another one in here from Christian. He says he wants to know if we think they'll bring back the anime schedule release. Unfortunately, that's a problem because the guy who made the anime is no longer with the team. So yeah, I think the Chargers are going to kind of continue to do this whole like video game thing. It's a little easier for them. And I think they'll continue to make fun stuff, but the anime I think is different.
Yeah, I don't know. So they did Sims, and they do Minecraft. I don't know what like what is when's GTA 6 coming out?
I think this fall, so I think they could do that.
That'd be kind of funny. Although I feel like that's a Vegas or Miami thing, perhaps.
For sure. NSN, who is in Australia, says that he hates the international games, and he is international. So, like next year, they're making the Rams go play in Australia, which like cool for the Australians, like very cool. I know we have a good amount of listeners down in the chat here that are from Australia, but making an NFL team fly to Australia to play a football game is insane to me. Like that's a whole day ahead.
Yeah. Like I don't mind at least for the Chargers, it's week one. So it's not like they played the Steelers and then they have to go travel to Brazil. Thank goodness.
Right. Yeah, if they want to do preseason international games, like that's fine with me. I don't really care. Yeah. But doing in-season international games, like what they're doing with the Vikings this year, where they're making them spend 2 weeks. And I know that the Jaguars have done this, but the Jaguars are their owner is like he owns the Tottenham Stadium. Like he wants to be in London. And they're an East Coast team, and I know that like Minnesota's not super far away, but I don't know, man. I'm just not a fan of the international games. I think it's really bad for players. And now the NFL gives the option to teams where they can like have a bye week later instead of right away. I think it's horrible for the players. And I know that the players like make a ton of money and all that stuff, but to me, it should not be a thing. You play the games, you play American football. You should play in the United States of America.
Yeah, no, I agree there.
So there's my rant for the day, everybody, I guess.
Yeah, America. That's the rant of the day.
Tyler, any final thoughts before we head out?
Dylan asks what we think of Andor, and I thought it was exceptional.
I watched episode 10 last night. I have not watched the final 2 episodes.
Okay.
I have heard amazing things. I can't wait. I will be watching Rogue One this weekend because it's just like
Yes.
obviously the transition. That being said, what I can say, episodes 8 and 9 are probably like right up there with like season 5 of Game of Thrones, where they did Hard Home, and what was the next episode after that? The Winds of Fire or whatever.
I know the plot more than the titles.
Yeah, where Cersei blows up the Sept.
Oh, yeah.
But that was a back-to-back episode. Anyways,
yeah.
Episodes 8 and 9 of Andor season 2 are 2 of the best back-to-back episodes of television I have ever seen in my entire life. Like the amount of just like stress and tension that I felt on the couch watching those 2 episodes is crazy. Like the execution, the writing, the cinematography, amazing television. If you are not a Star Wars fan, you should still watch Andor because it is so well done. Season 1 was awesome. Season 2 has just been like this build, and then they just knocked it out of the park with episodes 8 and 9. So I love the show. I'm gonna go finish the last 2 episodes right now after we're done, and I will report back. But 8 and 9, amazing, elite content.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Like, if you don't love Star Wars, my wife has not finished the entire original trilogy. I think she's seen parts of the first one or the fourth one, depending on how you say it. I think she's seen Empire. I don't think she's seen Return of the Jedi. It doesn't really, like, Star Wars has not been her thing. She's never sat down, like, asked to watch any of it with me. And she, like, I turned on Andor and she just like didn't move. Like, she just watched it all with me. And what's so great about it is someone like her who doesn't know like about like as much about Star Wars or has not finished it. She's like, oh, like, is this a parallel to history? Like, is this kind of like a Nazis like situation? And I'm like, yeah, like, yes, you are picking up on what they're throwing down here. Just the specific, like, the first couple episodes of the season 2, I was like, okay, like, you know, could move on a little bit. I didn't like him being stranded with the thing. But just like the tension and the machinations to get to 8 and 9, like, it is a kind of a slow crawl, but like you see like the empire closing in, and then just when everything just episode 10 is great, 11, 12 is great. Yeah, good stuff.
So much of Star Wars is obviously like, you know, like external forces and like save the world, save the galaxy, right? Like, it's, you know, it's all these like, you know, high fantasy vibes, obviously. It's about like magic, Jedi, and things like that. But for them to get like down into the nitty gritty of like establishing a rebellion against a galactic empire, like, I think they have absolutely nailed the feeling of what that would actually be like. And so I don't know, man, I love it. Like, Star Wars projects have traditionally not been like go win some awards at the awards cycles, but Andor should absolutely like cycle through all the Emmy competition because this season has been just fantastic. Yeah,
it's pretty good. So I'm very curious to see what you think of the last 2 episodes, which are very good. Like, I think the 4th arc of like the 3, you know, chunks of 3 episodes is like just a tad below, but right there with 7, 8, and 9. There's no like big people who have not seen this yet. There's no Gorman thing that happens in, you know, in 10, 11, 12, but like the stuff and the lead into Rogue One. I did not like Rogue One a ton when I first watched it. Other than the last half, which is awesome. Like, like that's just elite.
The Darth Vader scene alone makes it like great content.
Yes. I turned on. I liked it more as I've watched it over the years. But as soon as 12 ended, I turned on Rogue One and just kind of like watched. Like, some of it I could skip because I don't need some of the backstory stuff for like Jyn Erso and whatnot. My God, like, Andor makes that movie so much better too. Like, as now, season 1, 2, and then Rogue One, I will say it's a better trilogy than the original trilogy, which is blasphemous to a lot of people. But if I had to show someone, a new Star Wars fan, the best 1, 2, 3 punch, I would show them this over the original trilogy. Now, nothing will ever touch the original trilogy because it's the original trilogy, and like it did all of this. It's only here because of it. But anyway, that's my rant. Yours is about America. Mine's about Andor.
Mine's about not playing football internationally, to be clear.
Fair enough.
Roger Goodell's probably going to make a 2 London teams right next year. But
oh god.
anyways, so there's our non-football talk for the night.
There.
Wrapping this up, Josh sent in a super chat that says that his sons like your Pikachu and Stitch, which Pikachu, the Lilo and Stitch movie is coming out in a few short weeks here. So
yeah,
cool.
I'm gonna be like 29 in the back of the theater, like like because I just love Lilo and Stitch so much. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. All right. That is going to do it for us tonight. We are both 12 and 5. I think it's very interesting. I was not really expecting that. So positive vibes, I guess. Okay. Obviously, make sure to like, subscribe, comment. All that good stuff does help continue to grow our show. And we will see you guys next time. This has been the episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. As always, bolt up.